My next guest was mentioned by Joe Calzaghe as being the best in the world right now at super-middleweight. He beat Carl Froch last year in the last fight in the Super 6, the brilliant Super 6. He's unbeaten in 25 as a pro. He won a gold medal at the Athens Olympics, which is increasingly rare these days for an American. It's a delight to welcome to the show Andre Ward. Good afternoon, Andre.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Andre, I've seen that you've tweeted that Carl Froch boxed beautifully and deserves some respect. It was a stunning performance from Carl, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought Carl did a great job, and, it's like I tweeted, it's not really the norm for a fighter who's a rival to another fighter to congratulate him, but, at the end of the day, you got to give credit where credit is due, and he fought a great fight, and he beat a guy that a lot of people were ranting and raving about, and some people even had ranked above myself.
Mm-hmm.
And he not only beat him, but he beat him in spectacular fashion. So you got to give him credit for that.
It seemed that the longer Bute stayed out of the Super 6 and the more fights that you and the other guys had and the harder fights, it seemed that people, as you mentioned there, Andre, were keen to rank him above you and above Carl and above Kessler. I always thought that was a bit odd. Did it surprise you slightly?
Yeah, of course it did. But that's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of the sport of boxing sometimes. And, as a fighter, you know what you know. You see what you see and you perceive what you perceive. And what I mean by that is obviously, you see flaws in everybody. Everybody has flaws. But, I saw certain flaws in Lucian Bute years ago. And, I told people that, hey, the guy seems to have a good punch, but he hasn't fought anybody. Who has he fought to really show you, what he really has on the inside? Sure. And, but sometimes the media, they'll jump on a bandwagon and they'll ride it until something like what Carl Froch just did will happen. And then everybody will jump off. But as fighters, and I think Froch has mentioned it, I've mentioned it, we knew that, hey, he's a good fighter, but he's not quite all what you guys are saying he is.
Yeah, and that certainly came true there last week. Now, your next fight, if I'm not mistaken, is in early September against Chad Dawson. Can I ask you, Andre, what weight is that made at? Is that inside the super middle limit?
Well, the fight is not done yet, so...
Okay, so in theory it's in September.
The fight is going to be, from my understanding, at the 68-pound division.
Okay, so it will be inside.
And that's it. Absolutely, and that's simply because... Chad Dawson said he could make the weight, and I'm a super middleweight, so that's where the fight's going to be made.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're the unbeaten champion, and if that's what he says he can do, then let him do it. Now, there's also a lot of talk over here this week, especially. I'm not sure if there's that much talk in America about it, but there is talk suggesting that Carl Froch would like to fight you again, and perhaps you come to Nottingham. I'm asking you, is there any need for that? Is that something you'd be interested in?
Well, at the end of the day, I don't think I have to do anything simply because I beat Carl in our fight. But at the end of the day, I love the UK, and that's definitely an option, is to come over there and fight. We just have to see how the cookies crumble and how things fall. And but that's definitely something I've always wanted to do, and that's something that I would consider, absolutely.
During the first fight and after your first fight last year with Carl, were you surprised at how comfortably you won, Andre, in your harder fights? You're an honest man. Were you surprised?
I wasn't. To be honest with you, I wasn't pleased with the performance.
Okay.
I was obviously happy I got my hand raised, but I expected and I prepared to train. I trained and prepared to perform, I don't want to say a lot better, but a bit better than what I did that night. And, not to make any excuses because I'm not an excuse guy, but the reality is, Carl says he had a bad night that night, but, I had a bad week. I fractured my hand the week of the fight, and I dealt with grotesque swelling the whole week, a lot of pain, and pulling out wasn't an option. We were just trying to patch up the hand and get it prepared for 12 rounds. So I think that had a lot to do with it. I used one of my hands for a lot of that night. And, it was a good victory, but was it my best? Absolutely not.
Listen, Andre, it's been an absolute delight having you on the show tonight. Thanks very much for your time and clearing up one or two things. Andre Ward, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure. That's Andre Ward talking there openly a little bit earlier. And, it's a delight to have him on because, he is an exceptional operator. I know we're going to be speaking to Mike Marley a bit later on, and I know Mike Marley is a massive fan. He's a massive fan of Andre Ward, suggesting that I think Mike believes that there would never be a win if it ever happened for Froch. Well, hey, Mike's entitled to that opinion, and I'll ask him when he comes on.